All right. So, welcome back. We're back with a build guide this time, actually. And yeah, I made my first very own build, and I'm pretty happy with where it's at the moment. I've been super busy with leveling up different characters and trying out all the different classes. But this is currently my main character that I grind maps with and stuff like that. And as you'll see right here, we are currently we have done quite a bit of discovering on our atlas. Um, so there is really, like, I've been far and wide to all sides, basically just kind of peeking in the areas, finding some decent clusters. And I've been leaving the clusters because I kind of want to do them on the higher tier maps, right? So I don't even know. Oh, right here, we started right here. But yeah, so I kind of want to do the higher tier maps, and for that reason I have left a lot of the bosses and some of the other mechanics, like you see right here. I've done a bunch of the maps around, but I left the ritual just so I can come back to it a little bit later and do it once it's on a little bit more juicy map. And to be fair, the ritual specifically I'm not super happy with right now, but a lot of the other mechanics like delirium and expeditions and the bosses, right? Like those I really like doing. So as you'll see, I got a ton of bosses. When I find like an area with a bunch of them, I'll leave them there so I can come back and do them on a harder difficulty than what I'm running right now. And currently we are doing T12. That's what I'm grinding for the catalysm wake here, so we can get some more skill points for our Atlas tree, which is currently looking a little bit like this. But yeah, let me explain the tech a little bit, how this all works. And you might be looking at my life and thinking 1500 health seems like a little low, but that all comes together. Basically the build is built around this helmet and this armor right here. So and this is a very budget build. I've spent less than a divine. Like I would say I spent probably 50 exalts on this build, somewhere in that area. But yeah, the whole build is built around this helmet, and the reason we're using this helmet is we're gaining. So if we look at the energy shield, when I take my helmet off, I only have 1500 energy shield, and when we put it on, we get basically twice that, so we have 3k energy shield. But this also lets damage bypass the energy shield, so whenever I do get hit, it will take a portion of my life, but it'll also take a portion of the energy shield. And I'm currently considering going mind over matter, so it takes the mana pool first, since I really, as you'll see, it doesn't really, I don't really spend that much mana. Even if I'm throwing a lot of the curses, the regen is pretty fast. So I have been considering doing that. Not because I haven't been dying a lot or anything, but it's just once you get to higher tiers, you might want a little bit more safety. So that might be a good idea, swapping to mind over matter at that point. But this helmet really provides all of our safety, you could say. So currently our health pool is basically 4,500 technically, right? But yeah. Then we have this armor, which is a low tier armor. Like it's basically an Act 1 armor. You can get this in Act 1 normal if you're lucky. But the reason that we use this is for the 50% faster revive. So it revives our skeletons really fast now. Basically, if they all die, it'll take a second to a second and a half for them to respawn. And that just means that your damage time is very consistently being at the peak constantly, right? Like you don't have a big downtime or anything like that. Now, in the future, we are definitely upgrading to an armor, something like this. It's not gonna be this armor specifically, I don't think so, but it would be something like this, with some life, some ES, and a bunch of spirit, right? Because that'll give us even more of the skellies that we're using. And then we have our amulet, which is for rarity, spirit, ES, and life and chaos rest. That's basically the main reasons we got this one. That one I did buy for, this is the most expensive part of the build. I spent around 30 exalts on this one. Pretty much everything else I found myself, and I did spend some exalts on adding mods to the different items, but 99% of it I found myself, like the helmet, the armor, belt, boots, gloves, weapon, and shield, all, and my second hand is also found by myself. So you can definitely find these things easily, I would say. Now we're using this ring currently for the all res and the life and the intelligence. The rest of it doesn't really matter too much. I would love to get an upgrade here for sure. The boots are pretty decent. We got 20 movement speed with some ES, some more life, and triple res. The lightning res is terrible, but at least we have chaos res, which is one of the main reasons that I am not giving up these boots anytime soon, unless I find something that has similar stats, just better, basically. For the shield, we are also using an energy shield offhand here, with some chaos res, cold res, intelligence, and of course more energy shield. And then the gloves are against some resistances, life, ES, the normal stuff basically. Belt needs a massive upgrade, so I'm looking to upgrade into something that has preferably strength on there, and then some resistances, and then preferably life and a big mana pool as well. We're using this chaos ring currently for some more chaos resistance and all resistance. That's basically the main reason we're using this. We could do with a decent upgrade here as well, but that's for later down the line. I'm not super pressed about it. Then we have our weapon, which is, we got of course a bunch of spirit, which is basically the most important part of this. Then sadly only rolled with one skill, but the rest of the stats on it was decent enough to where I was like, fuck it, I'll just use this until I get something that's way better. So we have damage for allies in your presence. That doesn't really do anything for us, and we don't really care too much about that. The real thing we care about here is the minion life, since life on the minions basically scales their damage. So for that reason we want to have as much minion life and spirit as we can, and preferably have 5 skills over here as well. That would be absolutely amazing. But then we have our offhand, which is a sigil of power, and it's set up in a way where I can use my sigil of power, and then once I use my flame wall, it resummons all of my skeletons, and as you can see, they are currently getting affected by the sigil of power, so they get even more damage. And in specific fights, like a boss fight, stuff like that, I'll put down this sigil of power first, then I'll put my flame walls up, and then we'll fight basically, right? So that way they do as much damage as possible. And then on top of that, if we go to our gems, we are currently so due to our weapon, we have skeleton warriors, right? Like that comes off of our scepter. Not that I really use them, but I gave them a couple of gems, so you can basically do whatever you want here. It doesn't really matter. I would say they don't do tons of damage. So yeah, I do have this one on, so when they die, they explode and deal 15% of their maximum damage life as fire damage. Which that part is kind of nice, and you can consider them as small bombs that's running around. Our Sigil of Power, we got more skill duration, so it stays up for longer, and it has the energy shield recharge begins immediately, so that way when we're standing in it and we're fighting a boss, we also benefit a lot from that. And then we have our summoned Infernal Hound, which comes from our Ascendancy. And basically, this minion ignites enemies in a radius of 1.5 meters as through their base fire damage, right? So for that reason, and this again, the minion's life scales the damage, right? So we have put on here ignited enemies by the supported. So since this ignites anything within 1.5 meters, we have this to when we have an ignited enemy that dies, it explodes and deals even more damage. And then we have support skill inflict fire exposure for 8 seconds on an ignited enemy, since this is basically guaranteeing an ignite on an enemy that's nearby. This comes in very handy. And then we have the ignites done by this enemy will spread to other enemies within 1.5 meters. So if my dog dies and respawns and attacks another enemy, if it's already started to spread on one side, it can easily affect the other side of the screen and then start spreading more ignites that way. It works fairly well, I would say. I might be wrong here, and there might be some better choices for these gems, but it's just what I've tested a lot of them, and I've come to the conclusion that this is the setup I like the most. So yeah, and again, exposure applied by the support skill has 30% increased effect, so that it comes in very nice too. Then we have Unearthed, which is the skill that basically, not flame wall, but what this does, it does damage itself, but it also spawns these tiny scorpions, which are kind of powerful. They're not super powerful, but they're really decent at clearing areas, and specifically when you're doing towers and stuff like that, it's super nice. Or if you're doing breaches or expeditions or stuff like that, they come in real handy. It's just even more enemies, or even more allies to fight the enemies, to keep them at bay so they don't come close to you. And it just works out really well. And we are currently at a state where we can have 18 of these, and 18 these little guys, they do pretty decent damage. And then we have some support gems here that this one is basically, what this does is you hit a corpse with the Unearthed, and then it spawns a scorpion or a couple of them out of that corpse. And sometimes for instance, when you're fighting in a hideout location, then there might not be a lot of enemies, but you kind of do want to have a lot of them coming out right away. So if you only kill like 3 enemies, those 3 bodies can basically provide a whole lot of the scorpions, since there's a decent chance that we don't consume that body once we use the skill. So that's the reason behind that. And they deal more damage towards enemies on low life, so that also comes in handy. That just means they deal even more damage, and a guaranteed crit after a while, so that's even more nice because they don't stay alive for long, so it basically affects them often, I would say. Then we have skeleton snipers. This is my backup setup. Basically, sometimes you'll have to fight something that is just very strong against fire, and they do poison damage instead. So I occasionally swap one of these guys in. So what I'll basically do is I'll go to this menu and I'll lose one Arcanist, and then I'll add like 1 or 2 snipers real quick, and that way I can do the poison arrow shot from the sky, and that kills the more heavy enemies fairly fast, just in case you run into something that you basically feels like it's immune. That's why I have this set up on as a backup. And they got just more poison, basically. That's all we are doing here, is just adding more poison damage to them. And then we have flammability, which is our curse, which works really, really well with the Arcanists and our dog and our raging spirits. They all basically use fire damage, so this just comes in handy, lowering their enemies' fire resistance. And we have, of course, more area of effect to make a bigger circle. We have this one, which makes the curse spread to other enemies within 3 meters. That just is super nice too. And then we have this one, which is less cost, because it is kind of spicy on the cost. As you can see, you can actually, this is one attack I can spend all of my mana with, but the rest of them I cannot spend my mana fast enough. As you can see, it just fills it up faster than I can spend it. Then we have Flame Wall, which is, it's currently a circle, but the reason we use this is our Arcanists throw fire bombs, and when they throw a firebomb through the wall of fire, it does even more damage. So that's the reasoning behind using that, alongside with the fire skill spawns our raging spirits. So that is just a double combo, and there's like no reason not to have this. It's just more damage. And on this one we are using a couple of different gems here. So debuffs inflicted by our firewall makes them or deals more damage, so that's beautiful. And we're basically casting that in front of us constantly as we're moving, just moving, casting that in front of us, and then the Arcanists will shoot through it. Then we have more cast speed, so we can cast it faster. And we have less damage dealt by the wall itself. So the flames itself deal less damage, but they become a circle instead of dealing dealing damage, right? And that just comes in handy. You can ring in an enemy, so when they throw their fire bombs, if the map device was an enemy, we would be able to ring in the enemy, and they always hit with the maximum amount of damage. Now, the last part here is our Arcanists, which is basically our main damage dealing enemy or allies, right? And they are using scattershot, so instead of throwing 1 bomb, they throw 3. They got some more fist damage, some more elemental damage, some more damage, and again, and they'll take more damage too with this one, but that doesn't matter because of our insane respawn on the skeletons. So they'll never be out of work for a very long time, and since they aren't really doing any cold or lightning damage, adding 25% extra fire damage just seemed like the best choice here. Then we got our Raging Spirits, which have Culling Strike, so they'll basically take out a rare or a unique enemy when they get low enough health. They'll die. Believe the rares are at 10% and unique is 5%. So when they have 10% or 5% health left, they just instant die from our Raging Spirits. They take 20% of their life as fire damage. Oh, right. So I basically had this in because I was playing around with the idea of using a cast on minion death I think I left it in here. I don't know if I still want to use it though. Maybe I'll keep it because it doesn't really matter too much right now. But honestly, this could be something different. It's fine for now though. It's just basically what it does. It makes them count as they are dying, because they burn up. That's basically the thought process behind that one. And then we have raised zombies, which I don't really use anymore. I still have it here, but I don't, as you can tell, because I haven't, it's not 3-socketed, so I haven't used it for quite a while. But yeah, I was playing around with this for a while. I don't know, they don't feel very good per se. They just feel terrible. I don't think they feel good. I've played with them, but I don't like them, honestly. Maybe there is a way to use them better, with the power charges and stuff, but as of right now, I can't seem to figure out a way to implement them into the build in a way where they feel like useful, I would say. Last but not least, we're using Arctic Armor, which I am currently considering dropping. But it is just a layer of safety basically, and this one provides a little bit more mana regen. It provides, I don't know why the fuck I have this gem in there. This was the one I was thinking of. It has knockback, so if I do get hit, there's a decent chance it moves the enemies away from me and I can like roll out of the situation. So that's the reasoning behind that. I don't know what about I don't know why I have this in here at the moment. That makes no sense. I might just have put that in there without thinking about it. That's funny. Okay, so here we go for the Atlas. I'm still missing my last ascendancy, which will go to this one. So we'll get 1 maximum energy shield per 8 life, and it will reserve another 25% life. And at that point, I will swap to the good gear and go CI. I believe that will be my choice, which is right here. So we'll need a couple more levels to come down here and then be able to take CI. But yeah, I think at this point, where we're at right now, it's working really well. So the way I've set it up is we've gone for all of the minion damage that we could, and all of the minion life that we could, and of course some energy shield. And we're currently pathing towards this one right here to gain more intelligence, more energy shield. And the reason we need more intelligence is to level up our gems. And then we took the cloister right here with the minion nodes. I don't feel like the attack rating did anything for the arcanists, so I've dropped those 2 nodes. But yeah, we took the others here, right around all of these with life on them, and respawn faster is all very nice. Then we went up here, we went through the mana section right here to gain a little bit more mana, and regen and some more intelligence and ES. And then we continue over to the minion side over here, where we also grab all of the nodes except for the resistance, because we don't care for the resistance. We don't give a fuck if they die. It's all good. They'll spawn so fast again, so it doesn't matter. Then we went all the way down here, grabbed all of the nodes down here except for resistance. And then we went down here, grabbed some more energy shield and mana and all of the nodes in here. And then we went up here, grabbed the life nodes. We don't care for the resistances, as I said before, so, and we don't really care for recouping life either, so we'll leave all that behind. And then the next port would be pathing down here and grabbing this one and gaining 20% more life and some more chaos resistance from the tree basically, right? But this is basically the last cluster I want for the minions, and the rest of the points would be spent on energy shield. So we want to grab this, and we want to, as I said, come over here to CI, and we want to grab this node here, right here. I think that's about it for the tree, for the gear, and for the build in its basically in its entirety, right? Yeah. So what we'll do here is we'll go into a map, and we'll do a quick map, kind of showing off what the gameplay looks like. Let's do a fairly open map, right? Actually, should we do a map with a boss in it? That would be kind of cool. Do we have a... We do have a... It's kind of a shitty map, though. You know what? We'll do crypt. Screw it. Pretty sure that's the fire dude we got in here, but just so we have an idea of how it actually plays. So basically, we just want to keep throwing our firewall in front of us. And once, like here, we meet some enemies, we'll curse them. And as you saw, it kind of just spread to the next ones, right? And then what we'll do here is there's a lot of dead bodies, so we'll use our unearth. As you see now, it's popping out a bunch of little scorpions. So as we're walking forward and throwing like our firewalls for the arcanists, and we're cursing them, once all the enemies die, we'll hit 2 or 3 of the unearthed, and we'll just keep doing it keep doing that rotation. So we'll come up, we'll throw firewall, we'll curse, firewall, curse, and we'll just back up. If they start pushing you too hard, just back up, and then we go back forward. Curse, unearth. Sometimes, as you see right here, they're stuck because they are too close. So you want to kind of like move back a little bit and then move forward, and they'll come with you. That is a little bit of an AI problem with those specific things, like the minion. It's just a minion specific problem, right? Like the AI on them doesn't understand how to proper move through things all the time. So you'll have to kind of live with that for a little bit. But if you pay attention to our live, let's see if we can't get hit by something here. There you go. You see how it's taking a portion of life and a portion of energy shield. And since our energy shield is super fast at recouping, all we really have to pay attention to is our life, and then hit that life flask whenever it starts going down a little bit. Okay, let's keep going. Got a switch here. It just works out really, really well. And the main thing really here is just stacking more ES would give me way more safety, right? Having more life on the gear would give me more safety. Up until the point where I have the best gear in, like you can have, and then you can swap into stuff like CI, or you can do a mind over. I would do mind over matter now, or almost, because if you notice how my mana pool is constantly full, even though I'm using all my skills. Basically, it's really rare I actually spend enough mana to where you can see it, unless I'm like hitting the curse a couple of times. But it's a very functional build. It's a very easy build to build. It's very cheap. As I said, I've spent literally nothing on this. And it just functions exceptionally well for how little I've spent on it. If I take my warrior, which is basically the same level, but I just spent like a couple of divine on it so far, and it's decent, but it's just nowhere near as good as this. It has no clear speed. It can clear the same map as this one can, but it just takes so goddamn long. It's a great support character, so I use it a lot when I have to play with other people, because it's less taxing on the graphics. It doesn't really take a lot of graphics on the warrior, and this really does. So the thing I've noticed is, if you want to go play a public game or a public lobby, if you're more than one person using this build, everything becomes exceptionally laggy, and then you add on one of the Spark Archmage builds or something like that, and it's just nearly impossible to play. So you kind of want to have a backup build, in my opinion, that is a little bit less taxing. But this is a great solo build, just in general. If you wanted to play solo self-found, I would go with this build. Honestly, I think this is the best starter build for solo self-found. I kind of think it's the best starter in general. I don't know if there is another one that I felt like was as easy to get to a point which it does everything, basically. It does happen that you get just straight up one-shotted by some random whatever mob. And it can happen very randomly. It's been quite a bit of time since I've had that happen, but it's one of those things that just can, out of the blue, it just happens and you cannot do anything about it. Oh, he's up here. We'll go the other way around. Now this guy, is that the fire dude? No, that's not the guy. That's nearly impossible to kill with fire damage. But now you'll see what I mean with Sigil of Power. How it comes in handy for this specific reason right here. That's really the only reason I use it. I'll take a little bit of a boost. Why not?
What a delightfully sacrilegious creature.
We did take some damage, but it wasn't really, you know what I mean? It wasn't bad by any means. This is, however, only a T. What was it? T11? I think it was T11, or it was either T11 or T12. I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, you can. I would say this goes all the way to T15 easily. I don't feel like I'm in a situation right now where I'm missing something. In terms of survivability, I feel very safe. We are fully capped on our reses, of course, and yeah, our stats is a little low on the dex strength side, so that's why I really want to get like a belt with strength, because then I can swap way more of my points into intelligence. As you see, I have a lot of strength and dex nodes throughout the whole tree. There's so many strength nodes because I need it. So getting that off your gear instead of being able to invest that into intelligence or a little bit into dexterity maybe would be a lot nicer and go a long way. But as you see, its stats are fairly nice. But yeah, that's gonna be it for me. I appreciate everybody watching the video. If you like it, if you tried it, let me know. And if you want to see more, subscribe and hit that like button. And let me see you all in the next one.